Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Marando, your host today for the sports version of the Rancho Cordova podcast. And we're once again broadcasting from Fat Elephant Records, Books and Music right here in Rancho Cordova at the corner of Cordova Lane and Folsom Boulevard. Our podcast is part of an ongoing series that's sponsored by the Rancho Cordova Film Office. And we're right in the middle of baseball season. And who better to talk baseball than one of Cordova's premier pitchers of the 1970s, Steve Finch. Steve is with us today, and I'm honored to have him. He is once again on top of his game, not only today, but back in the 1970s, and we'll talk about why. Steve's family moved to Rancho Cordova from Chula Vista back when he was just about third grade. He grew up here, went to Peter J. Shields Elementary School, then went over to Cordova Gardens, went to Mills Junior High, and then graduated and played for Cordova High School. He pitched 11 years in the minor leagues for various organizations, chiefly the Texas Rangers, and of course the Seattle Mariners and the California Angels. But at Cordova High School, this man had the moxie of a veteran. He had an absolutely filthy forkball, and we'll talk about that. Not many pitchers back in high school era threw a forkball. And he had a devastating four-seam fastball as well. But just to list some of his accolades, Steve made national headlines in 1976 by throwing not one, not two, but three no-hitters his senior year. He won 14 games for a championship Lancers team. Steve's record was 14-2 with a microscopic 1.01 ERA. He was an All-Metro selection by both the Sacramento Bee and the Sacramento Union All-Metro teams, and a high school All-American. Those numbers got him drafted in the second round by the Texas Rangers, where he compiled a 68-58 overall minor league record. Steve is a 2019 inductee of the Rancho Cordova Sports Hall of Fame. He was honored by the Sacramento Sports Hall of Fame, and earlier this year, he was inducted into the Sacramento Area Baseball Hall of Fame. Today, he's retired. He's a retired attorney, where he and his girlfriend, Kelly Ingram, also a Cordova High grad, make their home in nearby El Dorado Hills. In his spare time, he coaches elementary and middle school girls basketball in the El Dorado Hills area. So I'd like to, without further ado, welcome Steve Finch. Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you a lot, Mike. I appreciate it. It's an honor for me to be here, and I appreciate you inviting me. And I know you've done a lot for baseball and sports around here, and I've listened to all your broadcasts pretty much, and I was very honored when you gave me a call and said, hey, you want to do this? I was like, yeah, I want to do that. That sounds like fun.
Absolutely. Well, we can't talk baseball without talk pitching. But anyway, how in the heck are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah. I'm doing well. I'm enjoying my retired life, and, just forgetting what day it is, and it's just Monday through Sunday. It just doesn't matter anymore. And, having a good time, doing some traveling, working in my yard, kind of playing golf. I'm learning about a year and a half now. So not very good, but I'm enjoying it.
Golf is a humbling game, and
yes,
most baseball players take it up at some point during their lives and careers.
Yeah, they tried to get me to take it up when I was playing baseball. And I'm a starter. You have to break in between your starts. And so that's what they did. And I just couldn't do it. I just thought, that's a crazy game. It doesn't look like fun. And it's going to drive you nuts. And I said, no, I'm never going to play that game. And I didn't until about a year and a half ago. And I got together with a couple of guys from Cordova that I went to high school with. And they said, well, hey, we don't take it that serious. Just come out. So I borrowed some clubs and went out. And I've been playing now lately, about once a week.
Is that right? Where do you play typically?
We play out at Wild Hawk a lot, and Empire Ranch, Diamond Oaks, played Mather.
Yeah, Diamond Oaks is a good course.
Yeah, we just went out to Mather, a guy and I, just a couple of days ago, played there. And then 9-hole, actually this week, we're going out to Emerald Lakes, which I really like. It's just pretty out in Elk Grove, so... Yep, I just I wish they had more up Highway 50 up near me. They're all private, but we have fun. There's a lot close enough, so it's good.
Excellent. It's great that you guys are making the rounds in some of the more premier golf courses.
Yeah, we go out, like I said, we do a little traveling. Kelly and I Kelly definitely learned. She worked at a winery, so she learned about wine, and I'm learning. But it's really fun,
Yeah.
going out and sitting in a winery and overlooking, Auburn or the hills and just kicking back. So
Since you're a pitcher and now learning golf, the approach to these sports, is it the same or a little different?
um, I think mentally it's kind of the same. You still have to learn how to focus, and I'm working my way back to that because I find that I sometimes I just get up and oh, there's the hole and I hit it, but I don't focus in. I don't think about where do I want to hit it and how do I want to hit it, type of thing. So that's
Sure.
definitely different. And then I noticed that I wasn't the greatest hitter in high school. I could hit, but I did have a tendency to pull, and I do have a tendency to do that in golf. I forget to look at the ball and pull out, and then I have to go chase it.
Well, you may not have been the greatest hitter in high school, but you were one of the greater pitchers
Thank you.
in high school.
Appreciate that.
In my opinion, one of the top three to come out of Cordova High School. Steve, we're talking to Steve Finch, by the way, the 1976 Cordova High grad, former professional baseball player. And thanks again, everybody, for joining us this afternoon. Most pitchers would be downright giddy at the prospect of throwing just one no-hitter. Okay, but you pitched 3 in the same year. Kind of walk us through that in terms of what's on your mind when you know you got your great stuff. You feel good. You've retired maybe 3 or 4 innings, 12, 14 batters in a row. Kind of lean us into that. What thought process?
They say, you hear that they don't think about it, but you definitely think about it. I mean, the first one that I threw was I don't remember specifically, but I know that one was just kind of happened, and I didn't really realize that that's what was happening at the time. I was just pitching because that's what I love to do. So I was just pitching, and but in the next 2, when I got to fifth, sixth, I could start thinking about it, but it's so rare that I didn't really. I don't think I put pressure on myself. It was more of just stay with the game plan, and the catcher that I had was very calm, thank goodness. Because if you get somebody back there who's all pumped up and you get too pumped up, you got to stay within yourself.
Sure.
And if you don't stay within yourself when you're pitching, that's when you get in trouble. So I think it was just a matter of sticking with what I like to do, what I did, and not getting away from it.
Well, that first no-hitter that you mentioned occurred on March 15th, 1976 against Grant. You shut him out 2-0.
Yeah, I remember it was early in the year.
Yeah, and Grant was no slouch. They had Robert McNeely, who ended up making the All-City team, both football and baseball. He was a speedster, top defensive back. I think he hit 454, 458. He went 0 for 3 against you that day. So just going out and shutting out Grant in one of the opening games of the season had to be a thrill. Your second one was against Davis, a game in which you struck out 10. Gary Myas, we talked about earlier, hit a home run, the only run that you really needed. So that got your sea legs, so to speak, on that second one. But your third one was against Vacaville about a month later. And to this day, I don't believe anybody has pitched more than 3 no-hitters in a given season, at least up in the Sacramento, the Sac Joaquin section.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, at that point, after the third one, I remember some people asking, has that been done before? And then I saw the articles and things. And in Northern California, I don't think it had at that point. I think there may have been now, or there might have been some way back like in the 40s or 50s.
Well,
I
didn't go back that far, but I couldn't find anybody who did. After that third no-hitter, when you took the mound, I know Coach Anderson gave you the ball about every third game. Were you expecting? Now, were you at the point where you were pitching with great stuff nearly every time out? So were you thinking about it early in the game at that point?
I don't think I was, honestly. I think I was going out. I was confident in myself. I always knew when I stepped on the mound that I had what it took to get people out. I was never worried about that, but I didn't think when I went on the mound every time, okay, I'm going to get a no hitter or anything. My main goal when I got on the mound, besides winning, was shutout. I wanted shutouts. That if I figure if I shutout and I get one run, I win. So that was my main focus at the time throughout my career, really. But when I think we talked about I had another almost one no hitter later, but it was more of going out, focusing and pitching, and just knowing I could get people out, and not looking for the no hitter or not trying for a no hitter, but just trying to get through the game, keep it scoreless, and that was my main goal.
Your bread and butter pitch was a pitch that very few pitchers knew how to throw, forkball. Take us through how did you learn the forkball? Who taught it to you?
I learned it out of a book.
A book?
A book. Yeah.
How about that?
In my junior year, I was pitching, at Cordova, and I hurt my back. I pulled a muscle in my back, so I was only able to pitch about 6 or 7 games that year. So I was out for a good portion of it, and so I was at home one time, and I went to the library, and I was looking through all the sports books, of course, and the baseball books, and it's very calm, or a very plain book. It's called Pitching. And I said, that looks interesting. So I looked at it a little bit and took it home, and it had different ideas or different grips, and it had a fork ball in it. And it kind of gave you like maybe 4 or 5 pages on throwing it and different things like that. So I started working at home, just putting the ball in between my fingers and spreading my fingers so I could hold it, and tossing maybe against the wall or whatever. And when I came back in the senior year, I was able to throw it because I had worked on it, before the season. And so now I had fastball and forkball, and it just came about. And I learned it right out of a book.
That's amazing. It's not like a former major leaguer took you aside and taught you how to throw a forkball. You went to the library and learned how to pitch, probably the best out pitch that you had.
Yeah, I did learn from after I signed and professionally. I was lucky enough to have a coach, Joe Coleman, who pitched for the Detroit Tigers,
right?
And he threw a forkball. So after I was still throwing it when I was professional, and so he helped me with it and tried to work a little bit on it. So that was great.
You alluded to a possible 4th no-hitter. Just to take some of our viewers through that game, it was against Woodland. You had thrown 8 2/3 innings of no-hit baseball, only to lose the game 1-0 in the 9th inning. The run that you allowed was an unearned run, or else you would have had 4 no-hitters. I don't know how many pitches you threw in that game, but you had mentioned earlier that was the game that you remember.
Yeah. Out of the all of the games I pitched in high school, I always remember that one, because that was the senior year. It was us and Woodland, Cordova and Woodland, always battling it out. And they had a pitcher, senior Mike Griffin, and he and I were always, every time we played each other, it was he and I going at it. And like I said, he got drafted also. So we knew there wasn't going to be a whole lot of runs scored. So I remember that game, guy on second, and 0-0 in the 9th inning. The guy got jammed and hit one out into left field a little bit. And Gary Myers, the left fielder, he had to make a decision whether he was going to come in and make some kind of diving catch to stop it, but then taking a chance the run's going to score easily. So he decided to let it drop and pick it up, and probably the right decision.
Yeah,
I give him gruff for it.
Do you?
Oh yeah, but probably the right decision at that time.
Yeah, Gary was always a heads-up ball player.
Yeah, and he was a hustler.
Yeah, he was. That year, 1976, was our bicentennial year. And hard to believe we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the United States. But that year featured an elite class of ball players. Steve. I mean, you had Mike Griffin from Woodland, Steve Hagan, the great pitcher first baseman out of Elk Grove High School. He dominated a lot of headlines. Robert McNeely, who we talked about from Grant High, and some of the others. So that was really, really a good class. And you had mentioned you and Griffin went at it. You both were picked by the Rangers.
Yep. Yep. He was picked in the third round, and I was picked in the second. And we ended up playing an A ball together for about a year, and then in Double A for a little bit. And I think after that, he got traded to the Yankees. I think it was, but yeah. So it was fun playing with him. Once we battled out, we knew each other. That's the kind of thing I like about sports and baseball. You can compete against each other and still be friends and know each other. But once the game starts, it's different.
Just an aside, in the Tournament of Champions that year, just to show you how dominant Steve Finch was, he won 3 games, pitched 18 innings without allowing an earned run. You were named the tournament's most valuable player, even though Cordova ended up losing.
Yeah.
Which that only has happened twice in the history of the TOC, and it happened to you, it being the MVP of the losing team. But going back to 1976, some of the teammates that you had, that was such a tremendous era for baseball in Rancho Cordova. You had Vinny Anisich, Scott Jenner was on that team, Don Brown, Gary Myers, of course, Andy McBride or Jeff McBride. How special was it growing up and playing with such a great group of ball players?
It was great. I mean, you playing baseball at Cordova was fun. I mean, it was just, you loved it. It was, everybody came after you in the area. It was just like football or baseball. All the other high schools, if they could beat Cordova, even if they lost a lot of games, if they beat Cordova, they had a successful season. So, we had these guys behind me, and I had played with most of them growing up, either at Mills or even Little League. Some of them came from Rancho Little League, but Mills played against them when they were going to Mitchell from Mills. And, so we knew each other. We had played together. We worked together well. We understood, where the person wanted to be if it was a pickoff play, how quick. I knew how quick Vinny was, Anisich at second, how quick he would get to second base on a pickoff, or, how fast Venable, was in the outfield and where he could play. And so we knew each other. And it was total trust. I mean, that was another thing. When you went out there to pitch with a team like that, or the year before when I was a junior, all those guys too, you just had confidence. They weren't going to make a lot of errors behind you. If there was a routine play, they were going to make it. If there was a spectacular play, they still might make it. But they just weren't going to make any too many errors, and very mentally, Mr. Anderson he put up with physical errors, that happens, but mental errors, Cordova didn't make too many mental errors back in the 70s.
Oh, no.
That just wasn't allowed.
Well, this too is back in an era where you had Mills and Mitchell junior high schools, both producing great athletic programs, football, baseball, 2 little leagues, Mills and Rancho Cordova Little League.
Yep.
And to play against each other was a big deal, especially in baseball.
Yep. Oh, yeah. It was a rivalry always. I mean, Mills, like you said, I don't know how many cities or towns have big Little League rivalries, but we did. Mills and Rancho, and some of the guys that went to Mills, lived on the line or wherever, so they played for Rancho Little League and then came to Mills, so we knew them as playing against them, and also now we're playing with them. And then also the same thing, we all moved up into the junior highs, so we were playing against each other since we were like 10 years old, so we knew each other, which was fun. And then we had great coaches at both junior highs. We both junior highs usually dominated. It was usually first and second, fighting out Mills and Mitchell. And then, then we got together at Cordova. So, yeah. It was thriving back then.
I think you still have another school record during that same year. You threw 33 consecutive innings without allowing a run, breaking a record by Randy Lurch. You broke it by 6 1/3 innings, actually. So that's another record that this man has as well.
That was always my. Now, people didn't realize that I followed these people, the players ahead of me, and Randy was always, as a pitcher, we were built kind of the same, tall, skinny, and everything. And I used to go watch him, and one of my things when I went into Cordova was I would look at the records and I'd go, I'm going to break all your records. That was my goal. I'm going to break all your records, and I got some of them, but some of them got away.
Yeah, well, you got your share. Let me tell you. After high school, you get drafted by the Texas Rangers. Take us back to that time. Where were you when you got the call?
Oh, I was at home. Yeah, I was at home waiting and waiting, sitting we had a counter, and I'm sitting in the bar stool, going around in circles, driving my mom and dad nuts because I wouldn't sit still, And
I mean, it's not like today where they have ESPN
no,
cameras. It's not the production.
not at all.
There's no sponsors. There's
No,
nothing. There's
no,
you at
just,
home.
there's just you and a phone call, and says it's quick phone call, but I got a call from the scout that followed me most, Patty Cottrell, and he called and told me I was drafted in the second round by the Texas Rangers, and yep, it was an exciting day. That's where I was ready to go.
Do you remember what your signing bonus was?
Not very big.
Yeah.
I know that. It wasn't anything compared to what they are now for a second rounder. I mean, that's why I was working every off season.
Well, I know we mentioned Randy. Randy, even when he was pitching at Double-A, was working over here at 7-Eleven in the off season.
Yep.
I remember going in there and talking to him.
Yep, I
worked.
worked.
And the same thing with Niles. I think he was working around town somewhere too.
Yeah, yep. It wasn't a big money maker at the time in the minor leagues.
Well, speaking of the minor leagues, I mean, you not immediately, but you go into the Texas League. So a lot of bus trips.
Oh yeah.
And so it's not like it is, or maybe it is somewhat like it is today. But back then, how was it pitching in these various cities that you played in?
It was the league was rough. The travel was really rough. I mean, we're talking about down in El Paso, San Antonio, Midland, all down in that area, Shreveport. So playing during the summertime in that area. Playing was one thing, but we also bussed everything. I was in Tulsa, so we bussed everywhere. And usually we're not talking about the luxury buses with the air conditioning and the padded seats. They were more like old Greyhound buses for the most part. And some of them didn't have air conditioning.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
In Texas?
Oh, yeah. You'd have all the windows open and everything. And it was an event. We had some that broke down, so we're waiting while they're fixing them, or guys sleeping up in the racks above where you normally put your luggage. If they were small and skinny enough, they'd climb up there. But yeah, it was a tough traveling. We had some times where we'd get off the bus at the stadium and play. I mean, we'd get there like at 3:00. And so we didn't have time to go to the hotel first. And we'd just get there, go into the clubhouse, sit around for a little bit, get dressed, and here we go. But for me, actually being on the mound, it was great because I loved pitching when it was hot. Didn't care how hot. As long as it was hot, I loved that. But the travel and everything was a little tough.
And it's not like you had somebody to check your own stuff in for you, right? No. You had to do it yourself?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was, they didn't go ahead and, get your rooms ready and everything, or the luggage out. No, when you, after the game and got changed and went to the hotel, then you pulled your luggage out from underneath the bus and carried it up yourself.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was, like I got A-ball was shorter trips. They were all bust because I was playing in Asheville, and then I got lucky in AAA because I played in the Pacific Coast League. So we got to fly finally.
Plus, I assume that they were air conditioned as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that was nice.
Moving back a few years in high school, you had some pretty good coaches that you played for, not just in baseball, but basketball as well. Talk about a few of them, if you would.
Oh yeah, we had a lot of great coaches. I started, I'd say the first really good coach I had was in eighth grade basketball, Mr. Hariza. You know, Mr. Hariza was a great coach, very analytical, very, you know, fundamental, taught you uh, how to play basketball. Not only that, but he taught you to work with people together and make it happen. And then, you know, baseball had Mr. Mr. Rose, and
Who happens to be here with us today?
how you doing?
And we'll get to you in a moment. Yes.
No, yeah, I had Mr. Rose, you know, and as a pitcher, you know, he helped me learn. Everyone taught me something different that would help, and that was, you know, I remember about different people. Mr. Rose taught me how to, you know, move the ball around from place to place, and we couldn't always just, you know, throw in the same place all the time. And learned more about being a pitcher. I was already kind of there, but there was a lot of fine tuning that still needed to be done when I got to the sophomore, you know. And so he pretty much did that. And Mr. Anderson, you know, what do you say? He was just Mr. Anderson. I mean, they both were very disciplinarians. You know, it wasn't a lot of screwing around. You were out to the baseball field. You could have fun, but it was still serious.
Well, yeah, and that was during a time where when kids went out for baseball, there was probably 50, maybe 60 kids going out for 13, perhaps 14 uniforms.
Yeah.
And when the final cut list was made, and yes, we had cuts. Believe me, I got cut twice. But that's fine because those kids, when they came to play, they came to win. And so you were taught inherently how to win,
Right.
How to minimize mistakes, but at the same time, you did, as you pointed out, learn discipline and some of the rudiments of the game, which, you know, can be debated. One era to the next is different, but I think when you played, there was more of a thirst to know the fundamentals of the game.
Oh yeah, definitely. They don't want to learn fundamentals anymore, for the most part, that I run into, and I try to teach.
They have DH. There was no designated hitter when you played.
Right.
You had to hit. I know when I talked to Randy Lurch earlier this year, he talked about that. He was as good a hitter as he was a pitcher.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I believe he could have made it as a hitter, but back then, you know, you're paid to pitch.
Yep.
Early on, you wanted to play baseball. I know you played basketball, but when you were a little kid, that was something that you immediately wanted to do. Who was your biggest influence growing up that pushed you in that direction?
I probably had two. I mean, my brother's 7 years older than me. He went to Cordova also, and he played baseball there. He played football there. He graduated in like '69. But he was one who definitely pushed me, because I watched him and I was going to do everything he did. That was just the way it was. And then I also had a grandfather who played, I don't know what they really called it back there, semi-professional, whatever, but they went around, traveled it around, and they
Kind of
played,
barnstormed?
yeah, barnstorming, yeah. And they played against a lot of the Negro teams back there, and he was a pitcher. And, you know, so anytime I went to visit, you know, we were out in the backyard, and he and my brother and I were playing catch, and he was teaching me something or showing me something or showing us something, you know. So those are my two people that really influenced me and really got me headed in the baseball direction. So as far as I could recall back, you know, 7, 8 years old, that's what I wanted to do. It was just, and then my brother was the first one that actually taught me how to pitch. But my grandfather, yeah, he used to tell us stories, and even when he was getting older, I mean, he was up in his 70, 75, and he was still out playing catch with me.
Is that right?
Oh yeah.
That's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Now, is this the grandfather? And I got to tell you, we talked about this in the warm up.
Mhm.
He barnstormed around playing Negro League teams. He ran into Satchel Paige.
Yep. Oh yeah. He used to tell us all sorts of stuff. I don't remember all the names, but he played against Satchel Paige, and he would just he had a way of saying things. You know, it's just he would describe a player that he had played against that was like really rough and really worked hard, and he was an unreal cuss, you know, and just the way he told us stories was just awesome.
Oh, those are treasures. I know that will live with you forever. Uh, After high school, you married Jeanette. A
Correct.
couple of years later, was she your high school sweetheart?
Yep.
Yep. And I know that the two of you were married for 41 years, and she passed away tragically 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She had a totally unexpected heart attack in January of 2020. But we had started, our first date was a ninth grade graduation dance.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Your parents let you go.
They took us.
Oh, yes. They chaperoned.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They took us, I can picture, they took us in a 1969 GTO that I still have.
Really?
Yep.
So was that your dad's car?
It was my dad's car. He bought it. My mom hated it. Never did like it. It's too noisy.
Well,
And
that's
this
the
and that.
beauty of it.
Yeah. And so I ended up with it when I was a junior, and I've kept it and have it in a garage.
Yeah, 69 Goat. That's
Yep.
a nice piece of machinery.
Yep. Yep.
So that is
Yep.
fabulous.
Jeanette traveled with me all through high school baseball and all the way through all the minors.
I was going to ask you, what was it like on the road being married at the time? And we'll talk about your kids too. Payphones probably were at a premium back then. Did she ever go with you or meet you at certain cities on the road?
There wasn't a whole lot of times on the road when that would happen. When we, at some point later in my career, when I was playing in Edmonton, so it was the Pacific Coast League, we would go down and play Tucson and Phoenix. And for most of the career, she traveled with me to the home field, you know, and like she would live in Edmonton. But towards the end, she stayed in Arizona because we had my oldest daughter at the time. And so she would come to Tucson. She would come to Phoenix. So we played at Vegas. She would come up to Vegas. So those kind of times she did. Earlier in the career, as far as traveling, not really, not too much, because it was just a lot of coordination and trying to get everything together. But later she did.
Mm. You did make it to AAA. Was there ever a chance that you had been given indications that, hey, you could be the next one called up? I know this is back during the Texas Rangers era where they were a pretty good ball club. What was that like in terms of, hey, I've gotten to this level and one more level?
Really, it didn't really happen in AAA. After my single A year, I went to winter ball, and then I went to Major League camp. And my best friend, who also signed the same year I did, he was a right-handed pitcher from Illinois. He was a fourth-round pick, and we roomed together all the time.
Yeah.
So we both went to the Major League camp. But at that time, when we went in there, we looked around and go, you know, we're just going to have a good time, because the starters at that time for Texas, I think, were Gaylord Perry, Ferguson Jenkins, John Matlock, and Doc Medich.
Oh, my goodness.
So we knew chances of breaking into that starting rotation were pretty slim, you know, and we were young, so they weren't going to change us into relievers at that time or anything.
You got some Hall of Famers in that rotation.
Yeah. So we went and we did, you know, we pitched and we worked hard and did everything, but we knew that wasn't going to happen. But later on, there's a time in, I think it was in AAA, and I was pitching pretty well, and then I hurt my leg again, and somebody for, I think it was Seattle, got hurt, and my friend who was also pitching with me, he got called up because I was hurt. So, timing,
Well,
timing.
that's exactly. That's kind of the breaks of the game. We're talking to Steve Finch, 1976 Cordova High School graduate, and we happen to have here in the audience one of Steve's coaches, Rich Rose. And Rich, I know that you're dying to ask Steve a question.
Uh-oh.
So if you have one, fire away.
Uh-oh.
Do you accept gifts?
Well, come on up here.
He and I have been trying to get together for a long time. What do we got here?
What was your gift from Coach Rose?
This is from our American Legion,
wow.
the team
Let
that
me
was
see this.
put into the Rancho Cordova Hall of Fame. I missed it because I was out of town when they had a get-together. They had a 50-year reunion, and I was out of town. But he had cups made for us all.
That was the 74 team that was
Yep.
inducted into the Rancho Cordova Sports Hall of Fame.
Third in the state tournament.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is quite nice.
Yeah, I said we've been trying to get together. We keep missing each other.
Well, there's no better place to do it than
Right.
right here
Right.
at Fat Elephant Records, Books and Music. I know we talked about your kids earlier. You have two daughters, Brianna and Mariah.
Yep.
The loves of your life. Tell me a little bit about them.
Oh, neither one of them played baseball or softball or anything. Mariah played for 1 year when she was younger. She had a great arm. We used to play catch long distance even when she was young. She had a great arm, but that wasn't her thing. Both of them were basketball players. That's what my oldest, Brianna, she started playing, put up a little hoop in Rancho on the roof. It was probably about 8 feet tall, maybe. She fell in love with it, and she played all through. She played at Cordova for her freshman year, and then we moved up Del Dorado Hills. But she
played for Oak Ridge,
Yep.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, she played 3 years at the varsity on Oak Ridge, and then Mariah came along, and she's 7 years younger, and she played for Oak Ridge also. And just great kids. Brianna is now coaching She's been coaching basketball for like 20 years at the college level. She's back at Boston University coaching. Still loves it. Mariah, she could have gone to college on a scholarship playing basketball, but she told us early, I love playing, but I'm not going to play in college. And then she got a scholarship and to Reno. Said, nope, I'm not going to play basketball in college. And she had told us so.
Yeah.
And then she went to Reno and played in every rec basketball league she could possibly get into. So she could have played on the team and they could have paid for it, but no, she wanted to do it this way.
Well, our kids will do that to us, believe me.
They do that.
The game of baseball has changed over the years, obviously, since when you played. We have new rules, speed-up rules. Some of them are pretty good, others not so much. Kind of take us through what are some of the rules that you like and maybe a few that you don't.
I can say the one that I really dislike is the warning the pitcher when they throw inside or knock somebody down. That I never did like.
Because as a pitcher, half that plate's yours.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, most of the plate was mine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I was a very calm, pretty mild-mannered growing up and everything. But when I was on the mound, it was a little bit different. I had no trouble knocking people down or, I wouldn't hit them on purpose, but I would knock you down. That was definitely, so I think that's just crazy. I think it's opened it up so much for hitters. I was just talking to another guy the other day. It's kind of ironic that, you can't pitch inside really that much. You can, but if you happen to knock a guy down and get warned, now the hitters know, he's not really coming too far in. But it's ironic that they have all the equipment now. They have the big elbow and then the shins and all this protection, but you can't throw in there. So I understand that I would be worried too if these guys are throwing 100 miles an hour. But so I'm not thrilled with that one at all. The clock on the pitcher I can understand, because it doesn't take that long, get the sign and get back up there, and the game drags along. And before I got hurt, I would move right along, but then after I got hurt, I kind of was a little bit slow. So I would have been one of those ones who the clock would have been good for a while, But other than that, yeah, the second, putting the guy on second, and
the ghost runner in extra innings.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense. It's a pretty simple game. It's a complicated, simple game. They don't need to really mess around with it, I don't think, that much.
Well, I think, too, baseball has achieved its objective of shortening the games, and the pitch clock had most to do with that, which to me negates the ghost runner. They can take away the maximum 2 pickoff attempts per runner, and the third one, you either pick him off or it's a balk. I think that they should get rid of that. Statistics have shown even before that rule came in that the average number of throws over to first base on a runner was 4. And that didn't happen very often. So those kinds of things, and then the relievers having to face three batters is kind of ridiculous. I think baseball will ultimately take a look at some of these rules. One in particular that I don't like is the lengthening of the bases. They used to be 15 inches squared. Now they're 18. Well, that coupled with the oven mitts that now some of these runners are wearing, which baseball still has not defined a length for those.
Yeah, some of them are pretty long.
The runner has at least a 9-inch advantage in terms of shorter amount of space to steal a base. So consequently, you're seeing more stolen bases, not by any one particular person, but by several guys that you wouldn't normally see steal. So I think those kinds of things baseball will probably end up.
I think they were, obvious. Their goal was to speed up the game and make it more exciting. I think most of what they've done has been for the offense overall.
Oh, it's all been
they
for the
haven't
offense.
done anything really for pitchers or defense. I mean, they've taken away part of the shift. Instead of telling the hitter, well, learn to hit it somewhere else, or that type of thing. So I'm always coming from a pitcher's viewpoint.
Well, sure, as well you should. A lot of these ideas are being incubated in the South Atlantic League. In fact, you can actually steal first base as a batter on any pitch that is missed by the catcher that you swing at.
On any pitch?
Any pitch. It's basically the third strike rule on steroids. So on any pitch, you can go. If that guy misses it and you swing and miss, some of them are swinging and missing on purpose. If the ball is way outside or an obvious wild pitch, boom, they can take off.
That makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, but that's where a lot of these ideas are coming from.
Yeah, I can't even see how that makes any sense whatsoever.
What about the StatCast, the ball strikes? A lot of umpires, a lot of baseball has come under fire for missed calls on the field. Some by as much as 15 to 20% of all pitches are not called properly. I know umpires are under the gun. Where do you sit as far as having basically a computer call balls and strikes?
I'm more of a traditionalist, so I don't like it. I mean, yeah, they miss calls. There's no doubt about it. But I think for the most part, they're pretty accurate.
You pitched both ends of a JV doubleheader, correct?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, well, that's something. So kind of take us through that. What happened? And I know you weren't the scheduled starter in both games.
No. I wasn't. It was a JV, and we were playing at one of the rec center diamonds there in Rancho. And I started the first game, and I pitched the 7 innings for that game, and didn't throw that many pitches overall. And I don't remember exactly, but whoever was supposed to start the second game had done something on one of the fences, the metal fences, caught his hand or something, but cut his finger or something, so he couldn't pitch. And so that was when, in between games, Mr. Rose would have like oranges and food for us and some drinks. And so I'm going over to get some water and get something to eat. And he calls me over and he goes, "Hey, Finch," he goes, "Why don't you just take it easy on the food and water and maybe keep your arm loose because you're going to start the second game." I said, "I am?" And I said, "Okay, that's fine." So I got something to eat, a little bit to eat, got some water, and played catch off and on during the little time break that we had before the second game. Warmed up a little bit on the mound, and then I pitched the first 5 innings of the second game. And so we won both games, and yeah, I don't know if it was how smart it was. I mean, I never hurt my arm, so um, and I love to pitch, and I was like, sure, that's fine. I felt fine, and it worked out. Never. So yeah, it was different. I was a little surprised when he came up, but
Well, plus back
okay.
then, as Coach shared earlier, he actually kept pitch count
Mhm.
and never let anybody go over 100 pitches. You've had an extraordinary career in professional baseball. After baseball, you became a lawyer.
Yes, I did.
What prompted you to go in that direction?
Oh, there was a couple things. I got out of baseball and I tried some odds and end jobs, and I had gone during the off seasons when I'd work at odd jobs, but I also, like when we came back to Sacramento and when we lived in Arizona during the off season, I would go and take classes at the junior colleges. So I managed to get my AA degree that way. And then when we got back here, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And my wife at the time, Jeanette, she had been in the law field working as a office manager, as a in the law field. And so she said, "Well, maybe you should try that." And then one of my friends that I went to school with, one of my best friends, we got together and we thought, well, we'll both go to law school, and we'll start a firm, get a firm going, or work for somebody and then start a firm. So we did that. We both went to Lincoln Law School here in Sacramento, and he after the second year he had some personal problems, so he couldn't continue, and I continued, and got through it, and I got in because I had an AA degree, but you could challenge what they call the baby bar, so it's like the bar but not quite as huge, obviously. But so I challenged that, took that, passed that, and by passing that I could get into Lincoln. And so went into Lincoln, and I worked at UPS early in the mornings, like from 3 to 8, and went to law school at night from 5 to 9 or whatever, for 4 years, and got into that and got out and practiced for about 23, 24 years.
Wow. And what was your field of discipline?
Well, it was insurance defense broadly, but for 17, 18 years, it was, I did medical malpractice defense. So we defended a lot of the hospitals and ER doctors, groups, some, what do they call them? Some small clinics, things like that. But we had a lot of the big hospitals that we defended. So it was interesting because I liked the study of the body and how it works and everything, so I could kind of put the two of them together.
Well, you're certainly a man of many passions, Steve. That is terrific. And now you're with Kelly Ingram.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
You're currently a couple, and she is also a Cordova grad.
Yep.
What do the two of you like to do?
Well, we enjoy the wine tasting. We like doing the wine tasting. We've taken some, longer trips, 10 days trips, but now we're kind of looking at the shorter trips, 2 or 3 day trips. We like to do that. That we have a pool, so we both like to. I like to swim. She likes to hang out by the pool, and then we have a couple dogs and that keep us busy. And so we're just kind of she's retired, and we're just kind of enjoying the life together, having a good time. And, I was lucky, when my wife died, it was during the pandemic. So my youngest daughter and her husband came up and stayed with me for a while. And then they went back to their home here in Sacramento. And Kelly, who, like I said, we've been in contact off and on, just because we went to school together. And she, a couple times, she needed some legal help with some houses, and Jeanette and I would help her. And she came to my mom and dad's 50th wedding anniversary. So we were always kind of running into each other. And she would text me, after my wife died, and helped me get through that. And then we just kind of kept texting and slowly kind of built into a relationship. And so we're just having a good time, enjoying life. And we, go out and restaurants and Top Golf. We like Top Golf.
Oh, yes.
Top Golf. I like that. So
Everybody's a winner there.
Yep. So we're just enjoying the life.
That is fabulous. I'd like to ask you one final question before we wrap up today. For those young little leaguers, young athletes that may be watching today, what's one piece of wisdom that you would like to impart upon them?
I would say the most important part, or something I would try to get them to remember, is that it takes time. You have to be patient. You're not going to be great overnight. You see these athletes and what they can do, but you don't see what all the work that they have done in the background. All the time that they've put into fundamentals, and how they work on their weaknesses, and all the time that goes in. You have to put in the time. It's not going to just happen. I mean, there's a lot of people that are very, very talented that don't put in the time and don't make it. There's people that aren't as talented that work harder and do make it. So it's just, and it's not going to, that's hard with young kids, is because they want it to happen now.
Right.
But it's not going to. If you don't do well 1 year, when you're only in 6th, 7th grade, doesn't mean it's not going to happen 2 years from now, if that's what you want to do. If you work hard enough and just keep working at it, but you're going to have to be patient.
Great parting advice, of course, from Steve Finch, Cordova High School, professional baseball player, second career as a lawyer. That is fabulous. Steve, we have enjoyed having you on the show today. It's just been wonderful. And folks, that is a wrap. I'd like to thank Steve Finch, of course, Coach Rich Rose, who's in our audience today, for coming out this afternoon. This is Mike Marando signing off. Until next time, when we have the Rancho Cordova Sports Podcast. Steve, thanks again for coming out.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate it.
You bet. That's a wrap.
So there you have it, folks. Another great sports podcast with our guest host, Mike Marando. Mike Marando always delivers great sports news and finds us great guests. And don't forget to visit Fat Elephant's Records, Books and Music at 2707 Cordova Lane, right around the corner from Harbor Freight. I hope you enjoyed the show. This is the Rancho Cordova podcast, brought to you by the Rancho Cordova Film Office. My name is Charles Lego, and I'm your host.